Good morning. I'm Linda Harden, the publisher of Contact Center Pipeline magazine. It is my pleasure to be here today and to participate in what I think is the first ever multiple association event like this. We have 7 associations participating with us today. They are listed here on your screen. The associations were kind enough to open this event to everyone today. So if you are participating without an association, I invite you to find one near you. What a perfect way to network with your industry peers, growing your organization's strengths, as well as your own professional development. Before we introduce our associations, I would like to provide a few housekeeping tips. All microphones have been muted. If you have a question at any time, please feel free to type your question in the question box and submit it. We will take as many questions as we can. If we run out of time, Tim and the associations have promised to answer all questions following the event. All registered attendees will receive a copy of the Q&A. Today's event is being recorded and will be made available to us. At this time, I would like to invite the Northern California Contact Center Association to tell us a little bit about themselves.
Good morning. My name is Matt. I'm with the Northern California Contact Center Association. I would like to welcome everybody to this monumentous event with all of the associations. And it's certainly wonderful to see some of our NCCA members jump on. Thank you all for attending. We're honored to be here today along with the rest of the regional associations. And we're very excited for Tim's presentation. And just wanted to throw out, if you are ever in the Northern California area, or if you're looking for an association in that area, look up our website. We're hopefully, knock on wood, hopefully going to be hosting some in-person events again soon. And thank you again for joining.
Hi, my name is Sangeeta Bhatnagar from GTAC, which is the Greater Toronto Area Contact Center Association. And we are a volunteer-run organization, very grassroots, the largest contact center organization in Canada, and a big philosophy on giving back. So prior to COVID, we had regular sessions, probably 4 a year, and an awards gala, and then a major conference in the fall, sharing best practices. And it's like a big think tank where we have industry and great sponsors supporting us. We're thrilled to be part of this event. Thank you for all that organization behind the scenes. And I know Tim's going to be awesome today. So if you're ever in Toronto, feel free to reach out. Enjoy.
Hi, everybody. This is Hale Che with the Midwest Contact Center Association. We have around 400 or so contact centers that are involved in our organization, and we typically run 6 to 8 face-to-face events every year in both Minneapolis and Chicago. We picked an interesting year to try to launch the Chicago MWCCA. But if you're within driving distance of either one of those, once we're able to go face-to-face again, we look forward to seeing you. But until then, we look forward to continuing to bring value online to all the practitioners that are out there. So welcome.
Hi, this is Laura Claycamp with the Association of Customer Contact Professionals, and I have to tell you, I took a lot of grief from my fellow contact center organizations around the country for my little logo in the top right, but I had to give a shout out to our Kansas City Chiefs, just had to do it. We are a regional association based in the Kansas City metro and surrounding counties. Our footprint does go probably about 60 miles around the metro. Like some of the other organizations you heard about, our mission is to promote learning and networking among our contact center professionals in the region. Same thing, if some of you are have sites within the Kansas City metro area, we'd love for you to join our organization. We have membership of all sizes and a lot of different industries, and you'll see our corporate members off to the side. And like what Hale said just a little bit ago, we are primarily face-to-face networking events. We usually do a lunch and learn every month, but we're excited to have this cooperative event. So we have some some opportunities and content for our members. And I did see a number of them out there in signed up and in here. So shout out to all of our members who joined this today.
Hello, my name is Monica Johnson. I am with the PTMA organization, and we are housed here in San Antonio, and we serve most of our South Texas contact centers. Along with everyone else in the call, our job is really to share best practices with other contact centers. And I'm really looking forward to what Tim has to share with us today. On the slideshow, I did include some of our major companies that we associate with. And if you're ever in San Antonio and want to come by and host a meeting with us, we normally do have a monthly meeting. But right now we haven't had one since this virus, but as soon as we get back things in normal, we will have monthly meetings in person. But until then, we'll continue to do some webinars along with Mark.
Hi, this is Mark Brody. I'm with the Austin Contact Center Alliance, and Austin Contact Center Alliance was formed in 1995 in partnership with the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce, and actually they are the ones that actually chartered ACCA back then. As all the other organizations, we're all 100% volunteer-led, and we also host anywhere from 6 to 8 events, normally in person per year. And we also have an annual symposium, which we usually, last year we had about 250 attendees and that's each September. Our mission is to unite, to learn and engage, and our membership includes over 125 organizations, big and small, brand names and not so brand names, throughout the Central Texas region. And thank you to all the attendees from the Austin metro area that were able to join today, and thank you to all the attendees across the country and in the Toronto area for taking time out of your day to join us as well.
Hi everyone, this is Michael Pace. I'm the president of the Northeast Contact Center Forum. I just want to say first thank you to all the attendees and to all the other local contact center support groups that are listed here. The NECCF, you can find us at neccf.org. We're the largest contact center association in New England. Folks from New York to Maine and all points in between either attend our events, either live or virtual. Obviously, we've gone virtual right now. We do one every second Thursday, or every other Thursday, I should say. And we usually will pick out, some specific topic and host sort of an actual roundtable and talk it through. We're 100% volunteer, and we've been serving our community for 19 years. So it's a fantastic organization, and I definitely invite you to check us out if you are local. Also, too, we're based out of Foxborough, Massachusetts, which is home of the New England Patriots. So we have 4 more championships than the Chiefs folks over there.
Boo.
Well, thank you, Mike, and thanks everyone for sharing information about your organizations. Now I'd like to introduce Tim Montgomery. Tim Montgomery is known as a pioneer in the call center space, having built his last BPO call center, CSG, exclusively in the cloud. CSG grew from 10 employees to nearly 1,000 in just 5 years. For 2 years, CSG was on the Inc. 500 list of America's fastest growing companies. And in 2015, it was named fastest growing large company in San Antonio. Tim's proven expertise in customer service and contact center operations has made him a sought-after advisor to companies in a variety of vertical industries. Tim has worked with and advised some of the world's most recognized service organizations, as you see here on your screen. Recognized as a talented speaker, Tim is a regular featured presenter at the contact center industry's largest conferences. He has delivered workshops and keynotes in 7 countries to more than 20,000 customer service and contact center professionals worldwide. And I must say, this is a personal pleasure for me to introduce Tim, as we worked together for a number of years. Tim presented his very first webinar with me in my office in Annapolis, Maryland. It feels good to work with you again, Tim. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Linda. Appreciate it. I remember that webinar well. I don't think I took a breath for the entire hour and a half. But welcome, everybody. The exciting thing for me is when I first started my contact career, I joined contact center, local contact center associations, and was part of it for a long time. And one of the cool things about these associations is you get together and you solve common challenges. So when you have these meetings, everybody comes in and shares what they're struggling with, and collectively you find best practices to take back to your environment. So if you're not in an association, I encourage you to join one. They're pretty cool. So as Linda mentioned, I built an outsourced call center about 10 years ago. I hadn't been in the industry a long time. I decided that I wanted to do something on my own. And the idea was to build the call center I always wanted to work for. So I started a 100% cloud-based BPO call center in San Antonio, Texas, doing all the things that I thought you should do and didn't do the things that I would tell people to stop doing. So we were pretty successful in that call center. We built it from up to almost 1,000 employees, 100% in the cloud, and sold that about 5 years ago, and I retired. And about a year ago, a organization came to me and said, would you mind helping us develop a program for our members on how to future-proof the contact center? And it was a unique opportunity because this is a group of call centers that don't compete against each other but are in the same industry. Some of the largest call centers in the US belong to this, but they don't compete. So what we'd like you to do is put together a program that we can all benefit from. Go out to the different contact centers in this industry, come back together and tell us all what we need to do different, what we need to focus on in order to collectively set our contact centers up for the future. So we put together a program called Future Proofing the Contact Center, did some neat stuff. We'll talk about some of the results. And then we had our expo in February. So February this year, we brought all the different contact centers together to talk about the results and share best practices in Dallas, Texas, and had some vendors come in and had a really good 2-day event. And then on the afternoon of the second day, one of the individuals from Los Angeles said, hey, one of the TSA persons was diagnosed with COVID. And so that's when it started. So about a week later, we kind of put the project on hold, but we do have some results that we can share. And one of the things, this is the first slide of the presentation on future-proofing the contact center. So this is what we started the 2-day conference talking about. And it's, are you better than McDonald's? And if you think about that, going forward, we need to start looking beyond the contact center for best practices, and we need to realize that our customers are getting used to some new and cool things that companies are doing. So a company like McDonald's, when we asked them, we said, hey, what do you think about what they're doing with AI? And they said, well, yeah, the kiosks are pretty cool. I can walk up and order my stuff and then pay for it and then walk up. That's not what they're doing. So in the future, and this is happening in a couple of them, you drive up, it scans your license plate. It knows who you are. It knows last time you were there. It knows the 4 last times you were there. It knows what you ordered. It can customize the menu for you. It knows if you have kids because you're ordering ice cream or a Happy Meal. It knows what you're doing, and it can let the system cross-sell and upsell you. Then it knows that the last time you were here, you used this Visa card. And it can offer you the ability to use that same card. And you can tell the kiosk yes, or the screen yes, and you can drive through and pick up your food. The other thing it knows is what time of day it is. Is it raining? Is it cold? Should I change the screen to be differently based on the elements? And that's just one example of what's happening with AI and what's happening outside the contact center. If you think about what I just described, what I described is a really smart IVR. I know who you are. I know the last thing you did. I'm going to offer you things based on what I know about you and help move you to the right person, as opposed to tell me who you are, click on all these buttons, we find out where you're going, you finally get to somebody, and then you get transferred to somebody else. So we need to start looking beyond the contact center for the future. And then also we're going to talk about looking at what's happening with the really smart people, our kids, and what they're doing. So an example is my experience with the Popeyes fried chicken war of 2019. So when this got really popular, my wife decided that she wanted to have one of those fried chicken sandwiches, and she was going to get one. And we were driving home, and she said, let's go to Popeyes and get one. And I said, wow, the line's out the door. It's going to take a while. And she said, and the drive-thru's down the street. It's going to take a while. And I said, okay, let's go home. And she said, no, we're going to get one. I said, okay. So we get in line. Interesting thing is we both get in queue at the same time. I get in the queue in the store. She gets in the queue in the drive-thru. So we're texting each other and saying, okay, whoever gets there first, here's how many we're going to get. Where are you? How many cars are in front of you? We're measuring our queue time as we're going along. So I'm standing in line behind a bunch of folks, and I'm looking at how fast people are getting through and getting out. And then I estimate my queue time to be 1 hour and 15 minutes. And I tell my wife, and we do the math on hers, and she estimates her queue time to be 1 hour and 45 minutes. So she then goes and parks, and then I say, hey, can I come home? She says no. So I stand in line, and I'm feeling dumber and dumber about what I'm doing, because it's like there's no reason to stand in line for this chicken sandwich. So anyway, what happens is we're standing in line, we look over and we see this young man walk in. He walked in the door, they reached over and handed him a bag. And we're all like, wait a second, what's going on? And then he walked out, and we all looked at each other, and first person in line said, how come he could get it? And she says, oh, he logged in with the app, ordered it. We told him it'd be about 1 hour. We got his geo activity when he walked into the parking lot. We knew he was here. He'd already paid for it, and we just handed him a bag and walked away. And we're all standing in line looking at each other going, God, we're dumb. But that's an example of what's happening and changing around us. And what we need to do is take advantage of that in the contact center. So the next few slides, we're going to talk about what's happened over the last 12 weeks or so. And one of the things that happened in a lot of companies is we had to just put a Band-Aid on it. We had to figure out how to make it work. So we put together different ways of taking calls and taking chats and taking emails and getting them to somebody that was not in our building, sending them out to people's home, doing things differently, taking old technology and having it do things it wasn't designed to do, but we just had to make it work. And what contact centers are realizing is, hey, it kind of works. And we can start doing things that were a little different, things that we struggled with in the past. One, there's a large bank that put something different on their IVR. Most of us figured out a way to make a new recording in our IVR that says, we're sorry, our employees are at home, we're protecting them, handle times maybe longer than normal. This bank put the recording just a little bit different, and it said, hey, all of our customer service reps are working from home. So you might hear a crying baby or a child doing homework. Please bear with us as we all get through this. Pretty cool. We realized, hey, we can be honest with our customers. We can tell them what's going on. We can try something different. But the neat thing is we all realized that this works and we made it work. But what we have to make sure that we don't do is once things go back to normal, just take those Band-Aids off and go back to the way things were always done. So this is one of the ways that things were always done and have always been done in contact centers. Everybody in the environment knows there are things that are broken. All the leaders know there are things that need to be fixed. Everybody understands that there's new technology that we don't have. Everybody understands that there's training programs that can be adjusted and improved. And what we end up doing is just admiring. So we spend a lot of time admiring the problems before we get better. And what we've seen is that nothing has really changed in the contact center space. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when I was working with Linda, we were at a company called ICMI. ICMI did a lot of training and consulting for a lot of organizations. And we'd have companies hire us to go in and train all their contact center leaders on how to solve all these problems. And then 2 years later, hire us to go back in and train all their contact center leaders to solve all these problems. And what we found is most of the time, they knew they had to do something. They knew they had to change. They knew they could get better, but we were paralyzed. We were admiring the things of the past. So one of the outcomes of the last 12 weeks and knowing things work and knowing things can move fast is we're going to move beyond the old proof of concept. And we've all been there, whether we're looking at implementing a new quality program, and whether we're implementing a new cloud-based solution, let's say a new AI solution, whatever it is, we go through this process, and it's proof of concept. And proof of concept typically involves a lot of committees and a lot of people admiring the problem for a long time, and eventually getting to the point where we've gone through a proof of concept and we realize, oh yeah, it works. And then we're going to customize it for a long time and then get it implemented. And by the time we get it implemented, it's 2 or 3 years behind the times. What we're seeing is a new way to look at solutions in a contact center, and that's called proof of value, because we know it works. We absolutely know it works. There's no reason to go back and test it in our environment. What we need to do is assume that it's going to work, because it works in a lot of places. A lot of companies are using the same types of technologies, or they've implemented the same type of new processes and approach. So we're shifting to proof of value. And proof of value is saying, hey, we know it's going to work. When we put it in, how are we going to benefit from a customer service perspective? How is finance going to be able to prove the value in this quickly? And how can we move from a 2-year implementation of something, a new process, a new technology, to something we can do in a matter of days and weeks? So the next part of this is what we learned is a concept that we called fail fast and learn. And it's the way that we ran our outsourced call center. It's the way that we did things back in the day when I grew up at a company called USAA. We did a lot of things really fast and we learned. So we just tried something new. We knew there would always be a better way. And what we did is we understood that it doesn't have to be 100%. We don't have to sit around and debate things before we implement them, or we don't have to test them and make sure it's 100% and no one would be impacted. We could do this in a small group and try different things. And when we had our outsourcing company, we knew this worked in other organizations, and we would set up a model office. So we may have a group of 100 reps trying something. We take 10 reps and move them out of the environment and use those 10 reps to test something. Look at it, see if it works different, see if the proof of value is there. Go back to our clients and show them it works this way and you can actually do it. So we put in model offices for our different clients. And what they realized, and what we realized quickly, is we are no longer in the world of a pick and lift. And if you've been in the contact center for a while, you've all experienced it. And it's where we implement, let's just say we're implementing a new telephone platform. Typically it's a couple-year process, and then it's a pick and lift. Everybody in the call center has to be on this new telephone system at the exact same time. We can't have both of them working at the same time. In some cases, agents have 2 different phones on their desks, and we have to figure out the day and the time and the minute in order to flip it over, and it's called a pick and lift, and it's a multi-year process. Now what we can do is try things with small groups. The flexibility of new technologies are allowing us to implement things very quickly. So maybe we used to have an email program that went to a Outlook inbox, which happens in a lot of big companies. We know we're doing email, but we haven't got to the point where we can implement a solution that will help us manage it, and it works. It goes to an Outlook inbox and someone pulls the information out of it and responds to it. Well, I know I don't have any insight at all into the volume, handle time, the success factor, the first contact resolution, all of those things, but it just gets done. What we can do in the future is try a new solution with a small group of people and show how well it works, and show the impact to productivity, show the impact to customer satisfaction. So what we've learned over the last 12 weeks or so is it's okay to try something new. It's okay to not get it right the first time. It's okay to then try something else. It's okay to learn, to go out, to just do a little bit of research and say, who else is doing this? Is there a solution? Can I download it? Can I point and click? Can I make it work? Can I try something different? Do I now have to monitor 4 agents per week, per month in order to provide quality? No, I can do something totally different. I can try something new, and we're all doing something different. We're all doing something outside of the norm, but what we need to do when we go back to our environments is not keep doing it the old way. Adopt a fail fast and learn approach, and then do something different. What's interesting is I just read an article that talked about what's happened over the last 12 weeks, and the number of people in some organizations that are now using digital channels to communicate with them has doubled. And in some cases, it's tripled. There was an article published this morning by a leading industry expert, and she said that the voice call need will plateau in 2020, meaning it's not going to continue to go up. There are so many conversations and solutions being provided in these digital channels, whether it's chat or social, SMS. People are used to it and they like it. So the world is going to be a little different going forward, and we need to be able to move fast to meet the customers, where they are, but also meet the customers where they want to be. So maybe I'm in a social channel, but you force me to be there, but I really want to be in an SMS channel. So it's not, the customer may be on the website and using chat. And we've always said, let's meet the customer where they are. Well, they're there because we've forced them to be there. They really want to be in social, but they're not using social to communicate with you because you can't do it. Or it just goes to a marketing department that's not handling it real time, and then they hang up and have to call you anyway. So in the future, we're going to meet our customers where they want to be versus where they are. We talked a little bit earlier about the need to get everybody in the contact center on the same page. And one of the things that happened during the last 12 weeks is we realized that not everybody in a contact center understands what others do. They don't know how all the pieces fit together. We typically have siloed organizations that do quality, do WFM, do HR, do metrics, do technology. They don't understand how all the pieces fit together. Yet, those are the same people that we rely on to help us develop new solutions, to help us improve the contact center. So, in part of the future-proofing project that we did, we went out to all of the different organizations and said, take this survey, 28 question survey, back to everybody that's involved in your contact center. So everyone that you would include in a process improvement initiative or group, who manages your contact center agents, who manages your contact center technology, supervisors, everyone take this. And it was a maturity quiz. And the questions were not focused on, tell us where you are, 1, 2, 3. We went through and I defined each activity. So this is an example of omni-channel routing. Can you use omni-channel routing for chat, email, voice, and skills-based routing? And this is one organization, sent it out to 50 or 60 of their leaders. And here are the results. No skill-based routing in place. 22% said no. But 13% said, yeah, we got it all and we're incredibly good at it. And then you had another 60% or so that said, yeah, we're good, or yeah, we're okay. I found this fascinating. Here's an organization that takes all of these folks, puts them together and says, how are we we need to move to omni-channel. Great. Nobody raises their hand and says, what's omni-channel and are we doing it? But yet they're on the project to improve that. They're on the project to improve things like supervisor training. Again, another fascinating question and result. These are the supervisors. These are the people that manage the supervisors. These are the people that hire for the supervisors in a contact center. 11% of them said, no, there's no training at all offered. And 13% said, yeah, it's incredible. We're doing great things. We have mentors. We're tracking progress. We're doing incredible things. Okay. Before we move forward with any change in a contact center, we have to get everybody on the same page. We've got to help everybody that's leading in a contact center, that's touching anyone in a contact center, that's managing in a contact center. We've got to help them learn about the dynamics of call centers. How do call centers operate? How is it different in our environment? What do we have to implement to make sure that all the different disciplines understands how all the pieces fit together? And one of the things you probably heard the term, walk in their shoes. And that's interesting. So a lot of companies and their call center agents, they may let their call center agents walk in the customer's shoes, maybe. That's great. Those programs are in place. But rarely do you have an internal program that's focused on work in your shoes. Simple word, it's a different word, but it's focused internally. Work in your shoes. How often do we have supervisors go over and be a part of the WFM team? How often do we have executives come down and spend some time with the area that's putting together the metrics? It almost never happens. But what we have to do in the future is, one, put together formal programs to make sure everybody's on the same page and understands how the pieces fit together. And two, figure out a way to ensure everybody knows what's going on. And I'll tell you, you're never going to be able to improve processes that are focused on things like customer satisfaction or things like employee engagement if all your supervisors and managers and leaders are not on the same page. They don't know what's going on. They've never been exposed to it. So that's one of the things that happened out of the last 12 weeks is we've realized everybody that had to wear new hats everybody that has to wear new hats didn't necessarily know what was going on, but had to do something different. So next, we'll move into an inside-out digital strategy. And this is something that's unique. I think we'll talk a little bit about shining objects in a minute, but this is something that I think works in most environments because we're focusing on digital strategies for the customer. And if you think about even your environment, you probably have a digital strategy that is looking at improving your website or looking at improving self-service on your website. We've already done everything we can. On the IVR side. We've figured out a way to avoid taking as many calls as we can, and it works the way it is. So now we've shifted to a digital strategy. And what I mean by that is we are looking at finding ways to help us avoid calls by using the internet or using a digital channel. It's not necessarily focused on how are we going to help customers in a lot of cases. It's how are we going to use this to avoid having them contact the call center. And one of the things that we've learned in the pandemic is people are willing to use alternative channels in multiple ways to get to a solution. So in the old days, what we would have to do is handle the transaction from start to finish. That's the way we've always done it in a contact center. Call comes in, you finally make your way through the IVR because you never needed your account balance anyway. You were calling for something else, and then you get to an agent. When you get to that agent, you have to handle the agent's going to handle the customer from start to finish, and that's what we do. We focus on first contact resolution. We encourage it. We report it. Everybody, it's an easy concept for people to get their head around. So I'm a customer. I get into a call center. The agent's going to handle me from start to finish. And even if I have to communicate with other departments and get the answer, I'm going to put you on hold as a customer, and I'm going to go to the other area and I'm going to get the answer. And that's because we handle everything from start to finish. And that's because my handle time objectives, my goals, everything around forecasting and scheduling, it's all based off of call comes in, gets to an agent, start to finish, first contact resolution, I'm done. What happens in a lot of those cases is the time the customer is on the phone talking to you, telling you about a need, may be 2 or 3 minutes. But the time that you are interacting with other people in the organization may be 5 or 6 minutes. But to the customer, now it's 7 or 8 minutes of their life you've taken away. So what we're seeing and what came out of the pandemic is a need to start thinking about ways to move from all things have to start and finish in the same transaction to ways to, okay, I got what I need. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to utilize alternative channels. I got what I need. I'm going to send a notification to somebody else in the organization. Is it okay? I have your email. Is it okay if they email you the solution? The customer's like, yeah, great. In fact, I just happen to have time right now to contact you. I don't really need the answer right now. I just wanted to let you know this is happening. And at some point in the near future, I need to have this resolution. So that's that's something that we started doing with some large organizations in the past. Let's figure out whether this is a real-time need or not. And it was fascinating to look at the number of call center transactions that were processed through a real-time function where I grab calls and hold them in queue that were not real-time needs for the customer. So it's kind of cool to go, hey, you know what? They're calling in because they happen to have time right now. They don't necessarily need me to take 8 to 10 minutes of their time. They just want to tell me what's going on, and I can give them the solution at a later time. So we're starting to move away from one size fits all, every single call. We're moving to start stop. When we talk about creating an inside out digital strategy, I mentioned that most of our digital strategies are looking for ways to avoid telephone calls. So we're putting more self-service on a website. Somebody that used to call in to start a function in a call center, they can now go online and do it themselves. That's typically the focus of a digital strategy. Let's find a way to avoid work in the contact center. What we need to do is figure out a way to make that same work type easier for our agents. So we're doing all these really cool things to make it easy for our customers, but that same contact, when it comes into the call center, can take a very long time. So think about that. I've created a digital strategy for this simple function to where a customer can go on our website, click 3 or 4 buttons and process it. But that same need, when it goes into the contact center, oftentimes can take 10 minutes or sometimes even longer, and that's because I have to verify, validate you. I have to look up your information. I've got to then find the answer. I then have to keep you on hold because I have to document the interaction and make sure that I've coded it correctly, and then I let you off the phone. And what I've done, I've taken that time away from you, but it also was an incredibly expensive phone call. And that's because I'm the person that went to training for 5 to 6 weeks to understand how to do that. Now, go back to the original digital strategy. Customer goes to your website and teaches themselves within minutes how to do that. It takes me 2 minutes to learn it, 1 minute to click the buttons, and I'm done. It takes a call center rep 10 minutes, and that phone call can be, $20 to go if you add in all the costs to process that transaction. Fascinating. So inside out digital strategies, the way we're making it easy for the customer, let's make it easy for the agent. Let's utilize skills-based routing to our environment. Let's narrow it down to where I can get somebody on the phone clicking on the screen just like my customer does in a matter of days. So here's a real life example of this. We had a client came to us and said, we'd like you to start taking this call type. And we looked at, hey, does this activity really require an agent to go to 5 weeks of training? Because we went to your website and your customers can log into your website and process this on their own. And they said, yeah, well, that's not the way we do it. You have to process these transactions in our old green screen platform, and you've got to spend 3 weeks in training in order to learn how to navigate the green screen platform. And there's all these security issues and all these other things. So, well, great. How about this? Can you go back to your IT group and say, can you create logins for our agents where they would have the ability to see across the enterprise and process this simple transaction for the customers that call in using your website? And they said, okay, let's try it. And we did it. And our training for that function went from weeks and weeks to days. Our agents were up and running, using the website just like the customers do, processing the same transactions within minutes, not tens of minutes. So we flipped the digital strategy, say, hey, let's quit looking at the customer, or whatever we're making available to the customer, let's take it and make it available to our frontline reps. So as we think about hiring, what's changed? Where do we go from here from hiring? Those of us that had to move everybody from home, we had to figure out, how do we hire and train in the new world? And one of the things that I think we all realize is that we have to adopt ways of training based on what everyone had to do in the last 12 weeks. If you think about what's happened in elementary school all the way up to college, everybody's at home. Everybody's learning how to train virtually. Everybody is learning how to train on their own time. So think about that. If I can learn to train on my own time in my own house, why don't we start building our training programs around what our employees need? So the reality is, not everybody is as smart as the other person. So take a step back and look at the way we train in most contact centers. In most contact centers, we train based on hiring. I finally get 10 to 15 people hired through the door. That's when I start my training program. All 10 to 15 go into a training room together. All 10 to 15 get trained on PowerPoint and systems. And then all training people go into a nesting area where they learn to be better. In some cases, those people don't make it out of the nesting area because they're just not that good, but I don't find that out for 12 to 15 weeks. And then they go on the floor. By the time they're on the floor, I'm now down because I've had turnover, but now I'm waiting for the next training class to start, but they have to be hired by HR. What we can do in the future is do on-demand training and then on-demand hiring. We can leverage cloud-based solutions to give people the ability to train on their own, to go through and test. In our case, what we had, this was years ago, we had some programs that required agents to almost self-learn in a training class. It was fascinating to me. They would go in and we had cloud-based training solutions for them, but we were making them come into the classroom, get a couple of hours of training, but most of it is they were sitting in a system learning how to point and click and learning how to find the solution so then they could take a test. And what we did is we said, hey, we're gonna pay you. You don't have to come in. Stay at home, use your system. Just make sure you can pass the test. And once you pass the test and get your certification, you can come on board. In some cases, the online the in-person training would be 2 weeks. What we would do in some cases is say, here, you're hired, you're really smart, you're gonna have 2 weeks of training. You can go home and do that training. I don't care if it takes you 2 days to pass the test or 2 weeks to pass the test. I'm going to pay you for 2 weeks. But if it takes you 3 days to pass the test and you're smart enough and you get certified, you can come to work the next day. But I'm still going to train you for the 2 weeks. It doesn't cost me anything, but I get you on the phone quicker. So as we move forward, let's take advantage of what happened. Let's break the old way, the mold of the old way of doing training, and meet our employees where they are. So the next concept, what we've learned, a lot of us are talking about work from home. You see it on the news every night. This company says you can work from home all the time. This company says till the end of the year. All of us are trying to figure out how we do that in a contact center. The reality is most of us in a contact center had some sort of work at home conversations in the past. We would talk about work from home and then we couldn't do it because of HIPAA, credit card, PPI information. What happens if they're in their home and they steal it? Reality is they can steal it when they're in your contact center too. It's IT limitations. Yeah, you know what, we're working on too many projects. Yes, we know we can do it, but it's not something we have time to do now. HR says, well, we got to figure out a way to manage employees from home. So all that time, we're still making them come into the contact center. We know it was a good idea, but we could just never make it happen. Well, it's happened. So now we see a lot of contact centers saying, okay, now let's figure out the policies and procedures and how are we going to make work from home work? How are we going to manage people when they're at home? Well, that's not where we need to be. We need to be focused on work from anywhere. So this has given us a great opportunity to transition, to leapfrog from work at home to getting creative and working from anywhere. So if I develop a model that says you can have a headset and a USB headset and a computer, and you can go to your house and you can plug into an internet connection and you can be a call center agent. I've created work from home. That's awesome. But I've also created work from anywhere. So that would allow you to say, you don't necessarily have to be at your home. We have a lot of people in contact centers that simply don't have the capability in their homes. They live with other folk, they have kids, they have lots of things going on, they don't have a quiet room, they don't have high-speed internet. So it's hard for them to go from working in a call center environment, brick and mortar, to working at home. So this whole concept of work from anywhere is, if you have a field office, let's say you have a pilot office somewhere where you have a group of people working. Let's say you have a small retail place that's being supported with a centralized call center. Let's say you have a big brick and mortar retail place. There's lots of room in the back. Why are we forcing our contact center agents to catch buses to go across town to get in these brick and mortar environments when they can work from anywhere? Again, maybe they can't work from home, but as long as there's an internet connection and a desk for them, they can work from anywhere. And if you own the real estate, put them there. So this whole idea of work from anywhere is, let's move the call center to where the agents are. Let them get out of their home for the 8 hours, but don't make them get on a bus. Let's figure out how to let them perform from retail office, field office, shared spaces. They can go there, they can work from anywhere. We've already set it up. We did work at home. So now let's move to work from anywhere. A funny thing about work from anywhere, when I wrote the article and it got published, I said, you know, this is kind of cool. A couple of months ago, I went to GoDaddy to register the domain. So I registered the domain workfromanywhere.com. I said, okay, this is going to be really cool. I hit the enter button. It said it's available. So I went through the process and registered it. I said, oh, this is really cool. I can't believe no one ever thought of this. So then I go back to test my domain, and I go workfromanywhere.com, and I hit the enter button and it goes to Marriott. I went, that's kind of weird. I registered that domain, and I went back and looked at it and said, oh, I missed an H. So I have workfromanywhere without an H.com. So if any of you are looking for a website that's misspelled, I now own one. So the other thing about when we talk about work from anywhere is we can start leveraging the cloud to do cool stuff. And we call this cutting the cord. So right now we have agents that come into a contact center, they sit down, they plug into their phone, and then they process transactions. And they leave the contact center and they put in their earbuds and they open their iPhone and they process transactions to the people that to where their clients, companies that they work with. So think about what I just said. When they come into the contact center, we force them to sit at a desk, be part of the ACD, and in order to be part of the ACD, you have to be on a computer, or you have to have a smartphone on your desk, or you have to have a USB headset. Well, you don't have to do that. That's not the way it's done anymore. I can, within no time at all, set up a call center with 10 agents on their iPhones with their earbuds, and they're part of the queue. They can be part of an omni-channel queue, and I can send calls to them. They're part of, just like you have in your environment, just like the way we've been doing it for years. Yet they're part of a queue. They have skills-based routing. They have omni-channel routing. Everything can go to their smartphone or their iPad. When we had our outsourced call center, we had a company come to us and say, hey, we're thinking the call center of the future is somebody carrying an iPad, being able to walk around in a cubeless environment. Is that something you guys can do? We said, you know, that technology has been around for a long time. It's there, just nobody realizes that they can do it. And it's really not that complex. So within a day, we had a group up and running with the ability to walk around with an iPad, to answer the phone, to be part of the omni-channel queue, to get all of the metrics, to be able to measure the recordings, all of that through a phone that they could walk around with, or an iPad that was plugged in to the ACD. That technology is there and available. So now we need to start looking beyond, how do I upgrade my current legacy platform, my current old ACD, start moving it to the cloud? And that way I can get omni-channel routing and better reporting and all those things that you're sold on from the vendors, which is fine. But once you get all of that implemented, you're probably going to be 3 or 4 years behind what's happening. So right now there are some really, really cool things happening that what we need to do is get out in front of this and start thinking about the next 5 years, not looking at the last 3 years. And there are a couple of things about the moving to the cloud that a lot of people don't realize. And one of them is you are always up to date. Think about that. Think about how many of us are on an old version of our call center platform. Something that we've been trying to upgrade, but we can't upgrade because we customized it to interact with this IVR to pull this information from a legacy platform. So we then just wait. And then we're another version behind. Yep, we want to do that, but we can't get there. And because we're a version behind. The neat thing about anything in the cloud is it's continually updated. And the way the cloud is built is you're always on the latest version. And it doesn't break anything you've done in the past. All of that stuff can stay, any kind of customization, the open APIs that you've connected, all of that stuff stays. But then all of a sudden you get the new latest and greatest capabilities. So in some cases, when you have an upgrade, you go, oh, that sounds really cool. I'm glad they did that. Let me add that to my call flow. Let me add that to my digital strategy. Let me push this out to my customers. You're always on the latest and greatest. It's pretty cool. And that's one of the things a lot of people miss. The other thing that we miss is you only pay by the drink. So you only pay for what you use. And if your call volume goes down and your need goes down and you need to redeploy resources to another area for some time, you're not sitting there on this large infrastructure cost. It's you only pay for what you need. Maybe you're in a seasonal industry where you have a lot of temporary employees. Let's say you're over Christmas time, you hire a bunch starting in October and you let them go in January. And most of the time they're temporary employees. In order to do that in the old world, I had to buy enough licenses to cover the peaks. In the new world, I pay by the drink. If they're not there for 8 months of the year, I don't pay for it. And then the new ones that come in, I only pay for what I use. So there's some really cool things happening in the cloud. And one of the things I recommend, I always recommend two things when I'm speaking to groups. One is go to Amazon.com and go to the bottom and say, I want to talk to somebody, and click on the button and go to their chatbots. So go to their chatbots and look at a previous order. Start clicking through it. Start looking at what they've automated. That's really cool. Then start telling them, nope, this isn't what I need. Okay, let me get somebody for you. Put in your phone number and then they call you back. What they've done is they've eliminated queues in their environment. The other thing that they'll do is if they have a queue in their contact center, as you're going through there, they'll stop and they'll say, hey, you really need to talk to somebody. Here's what we're gonna do. We have everything documented. It's ready to go. Once we have the answer, we're gonna put it here. All you have to do is come back here and the answer's there. The chat's still going. Everything is happening. And if the answer is not what I want, I click the button, then I can have an agent and go back and forth and continue the conversation. Amazon.com is on the cutting edge of bots, and that's just one example. They're doing some really neat stuff, and if you want to see the future, just go there. And you can see what's going on, what's going to be happening in the contact center world in the next 3 to 5 years. So that's one of the things that I recommend to everybody that I'm working with. The other thing is just go out and get some demos. You can go to any one of the latest and greatest cloud-based solutions to do omni-channel or anything else that you want to do. If you want to look at the cloud, anything in the cloud space, you can go out and personally get a demo of it. And then you get to see what we used to call the art of the possible. And that will change your thinking around what you need. So let's talk about, I'll give you an example. A company that I was working with, they called and said, hey, we want to completely replace our telephony platform. We want to get rid of our WFM, our quality, our ACD. We want to do all of these things. And I said, well, okay, what do you want? And they said, well, we've already spent a lot of time on this project, and here we've outlined all of these things that we'd like to have in the new solution. That's a pretty large call center, about 600 seats, and they wanted some pretty cool stuff. And I said, okay, let me tell you what has happened in the industry. We've moved so fast in the last 3 years that everything you're asking for in your RFP is 3 years old. And we quickly realized most of the people that worked in that contact center in a leadership or a technology role are so focused on getting the day-to-day done that they were just asking for something a little bit better. So one of the things I recommend we all do is just go out and get some demos of the latest and greatest. And I guarantee you're going to have some aha moments. You're going to go, wow, I didn't realize how far advanced some of these things are. And instead of looking at, we need something just a little better, let's leapfrog 2 or 3 years and let's try something new. And as we talked about earlier, the days of the pick and lift are gone. I can quickly implement something new and try before I buy. So with that, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about challenging conventional wisdom. So the way that we set this up was, let's look at what we've learned from the last 12 weeks, and how can we leverage this going forward? So the last part of this was just some ideas. Let's take this and learn that we've learned, and take this and realize we've learned something new. And we all have. Now work at home works, all those things that we talked about. This is for you. As you go back to your environment and you start talking to others in your organization, you have an opportunity to challenge everything. No matter where you are in the organization, you are now going to be listened to. In the past, you might say, well, senior management just doesn't get it. They don't listen to me. I can't make others think. Yeah, this is the way we've always done it. What we did when we were thinking about challenging everything is we decided to make it simple, to go back and just look at what's going on in the major disciplines. And for the sake of time, we're not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but I'll just give you some highlights. And this will go, oh, yes, can we do something a little different? So just think about your quality assurance program. And we talk about for them versus to them. So for them is your quality assurance program, recording calls, providing feedback, etc. Is it something that's done for them to get better, to help them improve, or is it something that's perceived as doing to them? And I can't tell you how many contact center agents I've talked to that talk about getting dinged. Well, that just says right there that it's done to them, for them, or to them. When we talk about employee satisfaction, is your quality program focused on improving employee satisfaction? Is that the purpose of your quality assurance program? Is your quality assurance program something that ends with the score at the end of a quality monitoring form? What do we want to do in the future? What we want to do is say, we just learned a whole lot on that phone call. How do I take that and put it back into the rest of the organization? And again, I think a lot of us, as we go through the next few slides, you'll say, yeah, I realize that's a problem. I know we need to fix it. Everybody in the organization knows we need to fix it, but it's just the way it's always been done. We don't have the resources to do it. People above us will say, no, you can't do it that way because one of the questions I used to get when I used to do a lot of public speaking was, how many calls should we monitor per month? And I would always say, as many as it takes. And I would get notes from HR people that say, we can't defend that. If they're fired for low quality, we can't defend that. And then I just ask a simple question. Is your quality program in existence so you can fire people? So let's go back and challenge things. I think we're at a unique place where everything is open. Because we're going to be doing things different in the future, the way we manage, the way we manage agents in a remote environment, how we're approaching things like quality, we can go back and challenge all these things. Nothing is conventional anymore. We talk about metrics in contact centers, and there are tons of metrics in contact centers, and you can measure everything in a contact center. But why do we do it? Why do we continually look back in our contact centers? If you go back and look at your metrics, why are we measuring the things that we're measuring? Are we measuring too many things? Really the customer only cares about, did you answer the phone? Was the door opened when you promised it would be open? And when it was open, did you give me what I need? That's it. That's it. From an agent perspective, I just have to measure, are you doing what you're supposed to do when I've asked you to do it? I don't need 100 metrics and reports to tell me that. So we've just constantly piled on metrics. How can we make it easy? Let's say we're moving to work at home. Now's a chance to challenge all of our old metrics. Say we're moving to omni-channel. We're looking to add email and chat. We're looking to combine different skills and functions within an agent. Now it's time to challenge the metrics. And one of the things that you know, it's often cited in a lot of contact centers is what is your first contact resolution rate? I can say how many companies I go into that say the most important metric we have is first contact resolution. I said, that's interesting. And then I ask them, how do you measure it? And they say, well, that's kind of a challenge. And it's different from this company, and it's different from this company. And you very rarely find two different companies that measure first contact resolution the exact same way. But we measure it. We measure it and report it, and we pat ourselves on the back for it. The shift in the future should be no contact resolution. Let's get to a point where we focus on defects more than we focus on resolving the defect on a phone call where we force the customer to call. And there's a great book. This guy named Bill Durr. He was the first vice president of customer service for it was for Amazon. I think this book was written probably 15 years ago, shortly after he left Amazon. But he was with Jeff Bezos when they were sitting in a room, and Jeff Bezos said, you know, that's pretty stupid. Why don't we provide no service? And I said, oh. So Bill Durr developed this process and wrote a great book about it. It's called The Best Service is No Service. So we measure a lot of things that say, we've provided all these defects and forced you to call us. How can we get to the point where we shift from first contact resolution to no contact resolution? And the last thing here, something I often do when I used to work for companies is find out who really cares, who looks at the metrics, who gets these numbers every day and does something with them. What can you do with them? How can you improve? If you get a stack of reports that's 10 or 12 pages high, do you really have the time to look through all those every single day? And this is an interesting conversation I used to have when I'd be sitting with a frontline supervisor, and I'll say, what kind of metrics do you get? Oh, we get these reports every day. Oh, okay, can I see them? Yeah, look at all these different tabs in the spreadsheet. And I said, oh, that's awesome. And we've evolved now into really cool web-based reports where I can point and click on all different things. And I said, okay, so what do you do with that? This, you know, most of these are for senior management. Oh, okay, yeah, I don't really need these things to manage my agents. And you go up to senior management and say, what kind of reports do you get? And they show me the exact same thing, exact same web-based interface and the exact same spreadsheets. And so I ask the same simple question, well, what do you use this for? And they'll often say, oh, that's really for the frontline supervisors and the managers down in the contact center. I really don't have to look at that. Fascinating. So I always ask why. As we think about workload routing in the future, what's going to change is you have to figure out a way to move away from a pull strategy to a push strategy. And what I mean by that is we know that we get so many calls, and we know at any given time how many calls are in queue. And we know at any given time what the handle time is for those calls. And we know at any given time what the service level is for those calls. So we know all of that information. We can see it real time and make decisions. What we often don't know is what's happening in the pool activities. So things like email and back office, we oftentimes don't know, and in most cases we don't know how many we have in queue, how long they've waited. Did we respond to them during our objective? We kind of measure it. We have a group that's pulling and it's pushing them, and I have somebody that's going in and cherry picking work or cherry picking email. What we need to do is have everything move to a push strategy, and that includes social. A lot of companies now, if I go to social and I ask a question, it's, hey, it goes to the marketing department. I don't want the marketing department talking to customers. I don't want the agents talking to customers because they might mess something up because it's on social. Well, it's transition. People are going to social, hitting a button and wanting customer service. They want to talk to somebody that can solve the problem. They don't want to talk to the marketing department. They don't want to get a note back that says, hey, we received it. Someone will get back to you in a day or 24 hours. We've got to look at ways to push everything to our agents so we can properly manage it. I was chatting with a friend of mine earlier this week who runs customer service for a very large organization that has theme parks throughout the world and a mouse as a mascot. And they had just opened their Hulu DirecTV or their Hulu television all over the world. And they opened up a bunch of different channels. They do some really, really cutting edge cool stuff. And he said one of their challenges now that they've opened all these different ways to communicate them, email, chat, SMS, phone, is they're seeing customers call in on all of them. Somebody will call, chat, go to social, and send an email at the same time. And the customer is just, hey, whichever one you pick up first, that's the one I want. But if I had the ability to look in a centralized queue, see the customer, see where they're coming in, see the one with the fastest time, I wouldn't have abandonment rates in the different areas. And a lot of times the customers, if they're sending an email, they don't send you another email and say, hey, you solved the problem on the phone, therefore you don't need to do it. We have a customer service rep that goes in, spends a lot of time, looks at the solution, did they solution, and they send an email to the customer and say, I see you called and got what you needed. Fascinating. So as we think about workload routing, we talked about start, stop is okay. We no longer have to have somebody come in a queue, have it go from beginning to end. One of the things that's hard for people to get their head around is skills-based routing for all channels. We talk about omni-channel. In many cases, I ask people to define omni-channel, and they define multi-channel, which is not omni-channel. Multi-channel is just offering. Omni-channel is pulling them together. And then what we have to do is look at our skills-based routing strategies. And I'll tell you, a lot of companies that I've worked with over the years have skills-based routing and use it wrong for telephones, for calls. They don't use it to their advantage. Eventually, everybody has the same skill, which means you have no skill-based routing. That's what ends up happening. What we've got to do is step back for workload routing and create a skills-based strategy for all of our channels to be able to manage in the omni-channel world. And the last thing that's kind of unique and about moving to a centralized workload strategy is we've got to start breaking down the walls. And I call it the Omni 4 walls. But in many cases, the social team is separate from the email team, that's separate from the chat team, that's totally distant from the back office team, that's not even anywhere near the billing team, and the call center's over here in its own little world, and we're really not sure what to do with social or with SMS. So what we have to do is say every single piece of work that can touch a customer can be managed in a centralized system, in an omni-channel environment. I can manage my workload. I can measure my workload. I can change my workload. I can prioritize my workload. I can do all of this stuff, but in order to do it, I've got to break down the walls and the silos within my organization. One of the other things we talked a little bit about it earlier, training, taking advantage of what we've learned. People are doing training at home, training on your own time, doing something different, all of those kinds of things, but it's really should be focused on fast. How quickly can I get somebody on the phone? And it goes back to something else that we talked about, which is it's okay to fail and fail fast and do something else. So in many cases, I may have a very, very simple skill. It's a simple activity. You look at the account, you say, here it is. Yes, it is. Thank you very much. Go on with your life. Simple. But what I do is I train that person to handle that simple activity to do other things that, as we talked about, maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks of training. Because if I train you and I send those simple calls to you, 20% of the time it's going to be beyond your pay grade and have to go to somewhere else. Okay, let's just figure out a process to manage that. Well, we don't want transfers. Well, your customer doesn't want to wait on hold either for something that's very, very simple. So develop a process that works seamlessly when they do have to transfer. But if I can train somebody on a very, very simple activity, I can have them up and running in a day. I now solved a lot of the challenges of my staffing, a lot of the challenges in my HR process, a lot of the challenges that I have when I put people on the phone after 6 weeks of training and invest a lot of time and energy to realize they're not very good. What just happened in that 3 to 4 month period, you let them talk to your customers. They were providing bad service. Get them on the phone quick, understand if they're very good at their job, coach them, help them develop them, and then move them on if you can't give them additional skills. And again, one size doesn't fit all. Here's something else to think about as you move to the future. You have a great opportunity to challenge everything. And if you are now at a point where you've said, yep, you know what, our customers are willing to talk to us in different channels, which I think the majority of call centers have figured out, and that they've figured out they have to offer other channels. So I used to have phones, and then I offer other channels. In a lot of the companies that we've worked with over the years, what they've done is they've trained people to be on the phones first. And that's because it was always conventional. That's the way we've always done it. You've got to know all of these things to be able to handle phone calls. And then I have to ensure that you can type and spell correctly and understand that there's an H in where. I have to teach people how to do that. So you got to learn phones first, and then you can move into the other channels. Well, I like an omni-channel training program. And it's just thinking about this a little differently. If you implement something like chat, the chat will come in from a customer. The systems today will read the chat. Based on what the customer asked in the chat, it will then look into a database and say, hey, I think these are the 3 or 4 right answers for the customer. And then they would send it back over to the chat, and the agent would look at it and maybe do a little bit of research and say, yeah, that's the right one. Put it in, respond to the customer. Next one comes in. Same thing, same thing. They haven't had a lot of training because they came on, they got trained on how to use the chat skill and how to navigate the system a little bit. But what are they doing? They're getting really, really smart about how to solve problems and what the recommendations are. And the same thing with email. Maybe I move them over to email. Today's system will read the email. It'll understand who the customer is. As we move into more integrated AI platforms, it will go out. It will come back and say, here's how to solve the customer's problem. I've gone out and done all the research, and they called us and they did this, and we went out and we tried to get it fixed in person, and we did get it fixed, and here's the answer. And it's sent to an agent, and they go, oh, cool. Well, what I just learned when I read that to send it back to the customer is how all this stuff works, how to solve these problems. And then I can move into phone calls. My training time for phone calls goes down dramatically because I've already seen how we solve all these issues. Pretty cool. And we have the ability to challenge this now. Customer satisfaction, we talked about defects focused. We tend to look back on CSAT. You know, the challenge with customer satisfaction, it becomes some sort of number and some sort of metric, and it oftentimes doesn't mean anything. We get it, we don't really do anything with it. We have a goal, we pat ourselves on the back. What we like to do is look at the inverse. You know, if you have a 90% customer satisfaction rate, that means you have a 10% customer dissatisfaction rate. Let's focus on the defects. And in many cases, you really don't have a 10% dissatisfaction rate because the people that didn't fill out the survey were part of the defects, and they're pretty upset, and they're not going to participate in your survey because they really don't care about you, and they've already emailed another company and they're doing business with them. So CSAT should be more focused on the defects versus a number that we're reporting out because it's something that seems kind of easy for people to get their head around. And something else, as you're looking at transitioning your contact center in this new world and looking at the conventional way we did things, we would send CSAT out and let the customer provide feedback. Now, some companies have got to the point where they're taking that customer feedback and providing it back to an agent and saying, hey, Tim Montgomery filled out this survey and he thought you were really horrible in this, 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 and this. You should do better next time. So they've done it where they've said, here's CSAT, let's take it down to an agent level. What's interesting, and what we saw a lot of companies do, is take CSAT, get it, then you force the supervisor to pull that call, listen to it, make sure that call's evaluated, then you allow the agent some time to listen to that call, evaluate it, and then have a 360-degree conversation where customer perspective, supervisor company perspective, agent perspective. Now I have something actionable that I can do better on next time. In most cases, that's not happening. One of the other things that we see a lot of now that we can challenge going forward is shining objects. And what I mean by that is those things that cause us to be complacent. And I can't tell you how many contact centers I've worked with where I've said, you need to do this. And they say, yep, we need to do that, but it's on our roadmap. And so we're done. We've checked the box. It's on our roadmap. It's going to be 2 years from now. And then the next shining object comes along and we put it on our roadmap and we take the other shining object off. What we need to do is start challenging everything about shining objects. And one of them that gets a lot of attention, and we hear it and people say it on a regular basis, and it's artificial intelligence is going to change the world. Artificial intelligence is going to change the way contact centers operate. Okay, how? Well, it just is. Okay, what is artificial intelligence in a contact center? It's going to change the way we do things. Okay, just watched a webinar by a gentleman named Seth Godin, who is an expert on customer service. He's an expert on process and improvement. He's an expert on technology. And he was asked, what does AI really mean? What's your definition of AI? And he says, everything that a computer can do today, automated. So if you take a step back and you say, what does that mean for a contact center? It's everything that we can do in a contact center will eventually be automated through AI. So right now, we have reps doing a lot of things that eventually could be automated. And that's great. The simple activities will go first because I'm now going to be able to automate when the customer calls in. I know who they are. I know where they need. I know where they were. I can have the answer for them and read it back. Great. I've been able to automate that. But what that does is it transitions the call center into those things that haven't been automated yet, or going to take years for contact center or for AI solutions to catch up with it. So they asked him the question, are call centers going to go away? And he said, no, absolutely not. AI is going to enhance the call center, enhance the customer experience. Our call center agents are going to move to becoming knowledge workers. We're going to have to hire smarter, better people to run our contact centers, to manage our contact center interactions. The simple stuff is going to go away and it's going to be completely automated. So an interesting perspective on the future of contact centers. I've had a lot of people come to me and say, hey, Tim, this is all going to be automated. What's going to happen with contact centers? And the answer is it's not. It's just going to be different. New channels, new ways of interacting with customers. It's still going to be there. We're all going to have jobs. Automation, AI in a contact center is going to make our jobs a little easier. The last thing as we close out challenging conventional wisdom is culture. And this whole idea of culture being considered in every decision is something that a long time ago at USAA, and those of you that are familiar with USAA know that they are the gold standard for customer service, and they're also a 20,000 seat call center. Back then, what was implemented was a question at the end of every change. And this was by the CEO at the time. He said, everything that we do different, let's understand what is it going to do to our culture? Every new process improvement, everything that we're going to change, everything that we're going to automate, how is that going to impact our culture? How is it going to impact the way people feel about working in this environment? So it's one of the things that we did when I had my outsource company. We said, we've got to figure out a way. If we're going to be successful in this business, we've got to figure out a way to make culture top of mind in every decision. So what we ended up doing was pretty simple. We called the company Culture, Service, Growth. Great culture, great service provides growth for our clients and our organization. Every single day, every supervisor, every agent, everybody that walked into the company looked at the big sign, looked on their shirt, looked on their desk, culture, culture, culture. Culture was everywhere. And what we realized in our environment is we had to focus on behaviors versus numbers. And we ended up drilling our success down to 3 things. And it was something all of our agents were measured on and all of our supervisors, managers, leaders, executives. It was show up, follow your schedule, and get better. That encompasses all of the things that we've talked about from an agent management perspective, from a metrics perspective. It's come to work. When you're at work, follow your schedule as best you can and get better. Focus on continually get better. All right, so this is for you. It's a takeaway. The slides, the presentation, all this stuff will be available for download on the association websites. I think they can send a link to folks to be able to download it. These are roadmap questions for you. And that is, go back and answer these questions with your team. And if these aren't on your roadmap or they're on your roadmap in a different way, let's start. Let's take advantage of how quickly we had to move over the last 12 weeks and start to create roadmaps that are months, not years. So there's about 20 questions for you to take back to your environment and start asking yourself as a group, are we ready to provide service any channel at any time? Great question. What's it going to take to get there? So as we do follow up from this session, we will give you the ability to get those questions. Closing thoughts, everybody here will receive answers to any of the questions. We had a bunch of questions come in during the session. What we'll do is download those, answer them all, and then collectively the associations will make them available to their members. Everybody will have the ability to download a recorded link. So if there's anything about this that you want to share with others in your organization, you'll be able to. And then attendees will receive a link to sign up for a 1-year subscription to Contact Center Pipeline Magazine. And it's one of those, it's got 15 to 20 great ideas in every issue. And full disclosure, I stole about 20 of my slides directly from that magazine. So a great thing for you to download and read. So with that, I think the follow-up would be questions. The session's going to be open for questions. If you have questions that you didn't get to ask during this, you can reach out to your individual associations. And if you're not a member, the links to the different associations will be in the emails that you'll be sent as follow-up. So thank you guys for attending. Appreciate it.
Hey, Tim, it's Linda. Boy,
Hey.
thanks a lot for doing this today. I think that you certainly challenged us all, gave us some great questions to take away and give some serious thought to.
Awesome. Thank you, Linda.
And I heard some breaths in there today. Perfect.
It's
Take
most of when I
care.
had to take a drink of water, Linda.
There you go. Take
right.
care. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone,
guys.
for joining. Bye-bye.